Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Now that I'm done with work, I'm a lot better.
Are you ready to start a podcast?
I am.
Are you ready to talk about this week's topic?
Sure.
Ooh, it's a tough one, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Controversial.
Very controversial. But I hope that what people take away from this week's podcast is education, which is what we're here for. This is a very controversial topic, and a lot has happened since last Tuesday. Starting last Tuesday. If you were not available, well, you know what? Actually,
are we live?
We are live. We should. I should.
Oh,
let me backtrack.
My armpit was itchy, so I scratched it.
It's okay.
I probably shouldn't have done that then.
If your armpit is itchy, you should scratch it. Anyway, let's do the introduction first. I'm jumping right into this topic before I even do the introduction. Hello and welcome to Learning the Law, a podcast about all things legal with a focus on current events, where we try and teach you things in an hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, and my co-host, who is the man of the hour with an itchy armpit, my husband, Ron. This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. This podcast is based on his interpretation and somewhat mine of relevant law. Any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individuals making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or other individuals. And Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California.
Yes, I am. And have been since September 15th of 1999, when my armpit was also itchy.
Anyway, so we're just kind of diving right in, right? We're just kind of diving right in. We come to you from Ron's bed again, from the bed. Ron's bed's my bed too. We're married. We're a couple. I also sleep in the same bed, but he is still on bed rest. He had an MRI last Monday. He has an appointment Thursday. So we're still on track to get medical stuff dealt with. But until everything is handled, he's on bed rest. So
yes, and it's boring.
And it just makes it a lot easier for us to stream like this instead of having him get up and try to come all the way into the office, into the streaming room, it's very congested behind my desk. And he doesn't have a place to actually lift up his foot, which is what he needs to be doing. So I would rather leave him in the bedroom. But thank you for everyone. Welcome. He is still working. So, he's working, he's playing games. He's just stuck in the bed. Like, it sucks. Date night is him going into the living room and us snuggling on the couch watching a movie.
That's exciting, isn't it?
Through better or for worse, okay? Through better or worse.
I enjoy my time out of the bed.
So today's podcast, thank you for those of you, we actually already have some people in the chat. Thank you so much. If you have questions, sounds like yes, my fault. It is very nice getting snuggle times on the couch. We put away all technology, put away everything, and just watch movies and stuff. But then we always pick up our phone and like IMDb whatever we're watching because we want knowledge, because I swear to God, we're both ADHD and like we can't watch a movie without knowing stuff about it. Anyway, if you have questions and want to ask questions, please let us know what your questions are. And this is some very, very tough stuff that we're going to talk about today. So this is trigger warning. I I think I'm going to have to rename the title of this podcast because Twitch would not actually let me use gun laws and mass shooting as the title. So I don't know. We're going to have to figure out a new title for the podcast. So let's start with what happened last Tuesday. The shootings in Atlanta. A gentleman. I am very much like Philip DeFranco. I do not like giving these people I don't like giving them names, and I don't like showing their pictures because I think that gives them a sense of. I think it just kind of. What's the word I'm looking for? Like it kind of
Summarizes.
Yeah, it kind of not necessarily it kind of glamorizes, but it makes them famous, right? And there are a lot of people who want to be famous for being villains, essentially.
And I wouldn't refer to him as a gentleman either.
No, well, very true. He's not. He's actually a young man. He's 21 years old. And he, if you don't know, the crux of it is he went, bought a gun, and shot 3 different massage parlors, 8 victims, 6 of which were Asian women, and 2, it looks like from the articles that they were actually customers, a man and a woman. So, who weren't Asian. I think they were white. No, actually, I think one was Hispanic, and then one was a white woman. Yes, to cannot. Fame, thank you. I don't like to give them fame. So basically, the cops in Georgia, and I am a Georgia native. I am born and raised in Georgia. So this really hits home because we lived in Atlanta before we moved to Southern California. And this really reading about all of these streets and all of these places that I know it's really hard to take in, right? So this particular one really sits, and this guy was also on the way to Florida and admitted to the shootings. He admitted that he was going to kill more. And the biggest issue is he was able to buy the gun that day, which is true. I did my research. There's an Associated Press article about it. Snopes, which don't knock Snopes. Snopes does their research. They also looked into it, and it is true. And as someone who was born and raised in Georgia, it's really easy to get a gun in that state. Their laws, it takes more time to get a concealed carry permit, 3 days, than it does to go buy a gun. Actually, I say 3 days. I think it takes a little bit longer than that. I'm exaggerating, but it doesn't take long to get a concealed carry permit. Basically, the amount of time it takes to do a proper, quote unquote, proper background check. And the argument, they're saying that they don't know what the motivation is. We all know what the motivation is. It's racism. It's a white boy who went and killed Asian women because Asian women are fetishized. Even though, and having a bad day does not excuse you to shoot people, period. So the coverage that we're seeing from this particular scene is just awful. It's really, really bad. And so that is one shooting. The second shooting happened yesterday. Was it yesterday, hon?
Monday.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yesterday, in Boulder, Colorado, at a grocery store, a man went and killed 10 people in a grocery store. So, what we're here today is to talk about gun laws, some of the arguments for gun laws, and the misconceptions that a lot of people have about guns, and understanding what the laws are, what they do. So I'm actually going to kind of let Ron take over because he is he owns guns. I mean, I grew up with guns in my house, but I don't know them that well. He is a interested party in like how they work, what they do, that kind of stuff. Like from that kind of perspective, like we've been to a shooting range once in our relationship. I am a person who I would like to own a gun, a handgun, just as a woman. But I also want to be very confident in my skills of owning that handgun. And I want to make sure that I understand the safety of that before I ever carry a gun. Because if you don't know how to handle a gun properly, you can really, really destroy a lot of things. So,
I'm bringing up the outline.
Yeah. I kind of went into more detail for my research. I did more detail into the shootings and stuff. So the gun waiting period for Georgia is very short. Very few. I believe Florida, it's 3 days. California, it's 10 days. Washington is 10. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 states that require a waiting period. The rest of the states
doesn't look like Georgia requires one.
No, Georgia doesn't require a waiting period. There's 10 states that require a waiting period. And I believe the largest waiting period is 14, which is Hawaii. Yeah. That's it. Every other state you can walk in and take a gun home.
Yeah, and then also in Georgia, you can go into the county clerk, fill out an application for a concealed weapon permit, and get it the same day. There isn't a waiting period.
Can you say that again? About the concealed carry? Because I mean, there is a waiting time with the concealed carry for the concealed carry permit itself.
Yeah, I just looked it up. You can apply online.
Okay.
If there's a judge there, he can sign it the same day, and you got your concealed carry.
Okay, so it's at will or whatever they call it.
Pretty much.
What is it? Giffords Law Center. It's a great resource, by the way. Giffords.org. Their focus is gun law. So I think one of the things that I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. So you can carry a gun in public in Georgia, in the state of Georgia. Open carry is legal in that state. Conceal carry is the one you need the permit for. You don't need a permit to have a gun out. If you're gonna, you don't need a permit. True. You don't. Open carry is legal.
There are certain places you're not allowed to open carry.
Yes.
You can't go into the state capitol.
Right.
You know.
I'm reading. Let me read. Yeah, there's no mandatory safety class. It's simply a transaction. Now, the store that the guy bought it from, they're working with police and FBI and everything. Like, they're working with people. They did their job, and according to the law, they and in my opinion, they're not at fault for this, for selling the gun and abiding by the laws that do exist. The problem is that those laws don't do anything. And the people who are screaming for, gun control laws, I really want people to understand what guns you're arguing about. Most people will say military grade weapon.
Yes.
Do you know what a military grade weapon is? There's no actual definition of a military grade weapon. You want to know why? Because military uses all kinds of weapons. There is no quote unquote military grade weapon. So that needs to go out of your vernacular. Stop using that term. Stop it. Military grade weapon is not the proper term. And the guy who killed eight people with a handgun. Not an assault rifle, not a shotgun, a handgun. A semi-automatic handgun.
Now, that was in 3 different locations.
Yes.
So, if he had a semi-automatic rifle, which had a bigger magazine capacity, could he have killed more people?
Yeah.
If there's more people there to shoot. I don't know if there's more people there to shoot.
Right. And not just that, it's the laws that have existed have been for assault rifles. But you were talking earlier that assault rifles are
right.
It's very broad.
There's no definition of exactly what an assault rifle is. They've tried to define it, but it's easy to get around the usual definition.
So we have
some have said,
sorry,
we're going to put in the AR-15 in this legislation as an assault rifle. Great. However, the manufacturer is just going to change a little cosmetic item on it, and now it's going to be called the AR-17. Law no longer covers it.
Right. And the law so there is a federal assault weapons ban. It's lapsed. It lapsed in 2004. So the law, in 1994, so this is pulled from Giffords.org. In 1994, Congress adopted the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, which made it unlawful for a person to manufacture, transfer, or possess a semi-automatic assault weapon. The law was adopted with a sunset clause, however, and expired in 2004, despite overwhelming public support for its renewal. Thus, semi-automatic military-style weapons that were formerly banned under federal law are now legal unless banned by state or local law.
Right,
So,
and I don't believe that law was ever challenged in the courts.
The act defined the phrase semi-automatic assault weapon to include 19 named firearms and copies of those firearms, as well as certain semi-automatic rifles, pistols, and shotguns with at least 2 specified characteristics from a list of features. The full semi-automatic assault weapon definition from the 94 Act is available, here. The federal ban also prohibited the transfer and possession of any new large capacity ammunition magazine. So, and according to their website, they, with research and stuff, where's my research? Crap. There is research that states, during the 10-year period that the assault weapon ban was in effect, mass shooting fatalities were 70% less likely to occur compared to periods before and after the ban. So the law can work, but the problem is what Ron just stated, which was they can get around the law. So you have to be more definitive on anything like that if you're going to put in those laws. So you need to explain, because you can take a semi-automatic rifle and you can actually make it an automatic rifle, which is what the military uses. The military...
It's not that difficult, actually.
It just takes some modifiers. It just takes some additional stuff that you can just get at any store, any gun store, at Bass Pro Shop.
It takes a little bit of knowledge on how to gunsmith it.
You can 3D print them. And they're very easy to find.
If you're going to do anything about the problem, it all goes to the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, before that, it says, as a well-regulated militia. We have selective service in this country. Every male has to register between the ages of 8 and 54. I think it's 54. There's your militia.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anybody that can be called up and made to serve in the armed forces can be considered part of a militia. You're part of the citizens' army.
So what is the law again? I'm sorry.
The Second Amendment says, as part of a well-regulated militia, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Okay. So one thing I'd like to note is that that was created in a very different time frame, and a different society. And I think it's okay to, because a lot of the argument against, gun regulation and helping putting more gun laws or whatever, is that they don't want to change the Second Amendment. They don't it's in the Constitution. But almost everything in the Constitution has been amended since it was created, except for that.
Gonna disagree on that. There's a lot in the Constitution that has never been amended.
Okay. But I mean, why can't we amend that one?
Do you know the process of amending the Constitution?
I don't.
It's difficult, and that's why it's only been done 27 times in our 200 plus years. First, you need either the House or the Senate to propose an amendment and have it passed by a 2/3 majority.
Well, that'll never happen because of the way the filibuster works right now.
So,
and the and the bipartisanship. So,
right, if the House passes it by 2/3, then the Senate has to pass it by 2/3, and vice versa. The Senate can propose it first and then send it to the House. If you can get through that hurdle, it then goes to the federal archivist, who sends it out to all the state legislatures. 3/4 of the state legislatures. So right now, that's 38 of the states have to approve it.
Wow. Wow. So amending, okay. Well, I mean, we do have gun laws and we do have gun regulation laws that do exist. They're not really enforced. But I mean, that's literally infringing on the Constitution. It's literally going against the Constitution having gun laws.
Not necessarily. Just because you have the right to bear arms does not necessarily mean it doesn't come with any kind of regulation.
Okay. Well, then adding more regulations shouldn't be a problem.
Except there's this mindset that if you have to register your gun, they're going to come take it away eventually.
But I mean, we register our cars.
Yeah.
You can kill people with your car. I mean, people look at all the protests that have had people ran over at. Like,
I have a driver's license. Doesn't mean they're going to come take my car away.
That doesn't make that concept does. I'm sorry, I can't wrap my head around that argument. That argument doesn't make sense to me. We register a lot of things with the government. You know, we have health insurance and stuff like that. And like we register a lot of things. But okay. I mean, okay. Why is there that fear unless you're going to use it to kill somebody?
Because people distrust the government.
Okay, then why do you have a car and a driver's license?
Well, basically, you need those to get to work and make a living, so you put up with the regulation.
Okay.
You don't need a gun to live.
Right.
So people don't want to put up with that regulation.
But we do need to, but we are at the point where, okay, so guns are unliving people. So to me, I don't know. And I guess maybe my more liberal mindset, I don't know. I can't and I believe in the right to bear arms. I grew up shooting them. I don't have a problem with guns. They are a little scary, which is why I want to learn more about them. But that concept just doesn't sit with me.
Here's the basic kind of guns. You have a handgun. Two types of handguns. You have revolvers and you have semi-automatics. Revolver is your basic Western gun you see in all the gunfights.
Was it Colt 45 or whatever?
Right.
Yeah,
it's a simple design. Dirty Harry used a revolver, in the movies. The semi-automatic has been around since 1911.
Okay.
That's why it's called the 1911 Colt 45.
Huh. Okay.
So, they've been around forever. It is a military handgun. The Army, Marine Corps have used them for years. They're going away to another handgun if they haven't already, because they need one that's a little bit more reliable design. Then you have your shotguns. The thing with a shotgun is it's not one bullet. It is a mess of pellets.
It's a spray.
And it sprays in a wide area. The closer you are to the shotgun, the more deadly it is. Now, they can be birdshot, which are very small BBs, all the way up to triple up buckshot, which are equivalent to 38 caliber bullets.
All of this is going over my head. I know about birdshot just because,
Yeah, you can't use double
family and stuff.
or triple buckshot on a duck.
Right.
It will vaporize it. And then you have your rifles. You have some rifles that are bolt action. Those are mainly your 22s, your sniper rifles. And then you have your semi-automatics. A semi-automatic is one bullet per trigger pull. A bolt action, if it doesn't have a magazine on it, you have to load it in one at a time. And an automatic will keep on firing as long as you hold the trigger down. That's your basic differences.
Right.
Now, generally, you can't own an automatic weapon.
Right.
However, there are 175,000 plus registered machine guns in the country. Because
why do you need a machine gun?
Because if you can get a class 3 federal license, you can own a machine gun.
But why do you need a machine? What purpose does that serve? What purpose does a machine gun serve?
I'm going to leave that as a rhetorical question.
You're not, if you can't use it for hunting. That's all I'm saying. You can't use it for hunting for animals. Because you're going to ruin the meat.
Unless you're a bad shot.
Well, no. Please don't make your bad jokes right now. Because people can take them out of context. That wasn't funny.
People do use machine guns for hunting.
But why? Why? What's the point? You're going to destroy the meat.
Yeah.
If you're just pelting it with bullets, you're going to destroy the meat.
Those are the hunters that go for the heads.
Well, if you're a bad shot, you could ruin the head. Like, none of this is making sense to me. And I grew up, I've been hunting. Like, these arguments do not sound valid to me. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. These arguments are not valid arguments. You don't need a machine gun.
I agree. You don't need a machine gun to hunt.
You don't need a machine gun, period. A civilian.
But what if you consider them fun to fire at targets?
Okay, then go to a shooting range that has the license to do that and rent it and shoot it there.
So is that not then easier to get a machine gun that way than to try and own it on your own?
What do you mean?
I rent a Tommy gun for $100. I just take it.
Okay. Well, I mean, can you not, okay, all right. I know this doesn't exist, but here's my thoughts on that. You can put a chip in that. You can make those guns traceable so that if they do get stolen, they're easily traceable and the government can come get you if they're removed. And every time you have somebody come in, you let them know, just so you know, these guns are traceable. If you use them and you steal them, you will go to jail for a very long time. That doesn't seem that difficult to me. I mean, that's like, what if somebody were to just steal a car off a lot? That can totally happen.
Yeah, they can run into people with it. The thing is a lot of this right now is opinion.
Okay.
Not a lot of laws going into this.
Okay. Well, you're the one who is talking about how guns work.
Yeah. So the question is, what restrictions can you put on owning a gun?
Well, what are the restrictions that exist now?
If you're a violent felon or have a felony in your criminal record, you're not supposed to be able to own a firearm.
Okay. Well, I know for a fact they've actually laxed that because I know someone who technically is a felon. Granted, it had to do with drugs and weed, but they were able to get a gun because they relaxed that, at least in Georgia. Granted, I will say weed is not a drug, and I don't think, people who are in jail for weed should not be in jail for weed.
Do you think this person actually legally owns that gun?
Yes. I know who it is. I'm not
I
going to.
think I know who it is too. Do you think he had his record expunged?
Yes. I know for a fact he did.
That's why he can get a firearm. He doesn't have a felony on his record anymore. They expunged it.
He was able to get the concealed carry and everything like that because he used to have to go through his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An expungement is like you never did anything bad.
Okay. But they only expunge like small felonies. Like if you murdered somebody, you're not going to get that expunged.
Not unless you know the judge. Yeah.
I'm asking, that's a question, not a statement. Like, that's my question.
They will expunge just about anything.
Wow.
Provided on your behavior since, how long ago it was.
That's scary.
And the type of felony.
So you mean someone could have murdered someone, say, in 1973, and now be like, I want to own a gun and get their record expunged if they show that?
Theoretically, yes. If you can convince the judge. Now, if you say, Judge, I want my record expunged so I can own a gun, that's never going to happen. But if you say, Judge, I need my record expunged so I can get some gainful employment. No one is hiring me. Maybe you'll get some soft-hearted judge that will say, okay, you've been on great behavior for the last 50 years or whatever. The problem is most of the people convicted of murder are in jail for those 50 years.
This is true.
So there is no record of them having good behavior in society.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm learning so much. I hope you are too. That is very interesting. And I mean, this is kind of a tangent, but I have a problem with the way the prison system works. And I do kind of wish that we gave felons more chances to actually be able to come back into society when they get out of jail. Cause I don't like the way our society does that and handles that. But, that's another podcast.
So the question then is, can you just ban certain kinds of guns? Laws have been passed that haven't been challenged, such as the federal weapons ban. Other laws have been passed in, I believe, is Washington, D.C., that tried to ban all handguns. It was overruled, ruled unconstitutional. Even though there is a history throughout U.S. Throughout the U.S. where certain cities said you can't come into our town limits if you're carrying a gun.
Right.
and you'd have to check it in with the local sheriff. Is that constitutional? Well, it's an infringement on the right to bear arms. But back in the day, who was going to argue with the sheriff?
Right.
Nowadays, you take it to court.
So you're not going to get away from people just being bad. You're never going to get away from that. And people who want to kill other people are going to do it with or without
one way
a gun
or another.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's the guy who stabbed 27 people in China.
The most people who died at a school was because of a dynamite explosion.
Right. So
hell, you got those guys at the Boston Marathon that use pressure cookers.
Yeah, they're dealing with that trial right now. Like, it's going on right now. So that being said, we still need laws to make it more difficult for these people to get their hands on things that make it easier to kill more.
You need better background checks. You need some mandatory background checks. You need these unregistered sale of weapons at gun shows and through private parties needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the sales themselves, because it is a business, but you need to register and you need to know who the hell you're selling these things to.
Yeah. Like, if you are, yeah. And I don't understand why you can just walk up into, there's no law stopping you from going, well, depending on what state you are, but in 40 states, you can go to a gun show and walk home with those guns. And like, I don't understand this obsession and this glorification of guns. Same with knives. Like, I've seen some really pretty knives. I've seen some really pretty guns, but like, this whole fanatic thing surrounding it is weird to me. But I also am a person who doesn't really like violence. So
now, my first gun, I was able to walk into the sporting goods store, pay cash, and they handed it to me. It meets all the classic definitions of an assault rifle. I was 18 years old.
I think that's too young to be able to own a gun. But I mean, you can gift a gun to someone too.
And the reason I was able to do that in California was because it was considered an antique.
And it is a non-working gun. Like, it doesn't work.
No, mine does.
Yours does. Well, I mean, no, it doesn't. No. If you were to go shoot it right now, it would not shoot. It needs to be cleaned and taken care of.
It needs to be cleaned, but that doesn't mean it's not working.
It will probably break if you try to use it. Anyway, we're getting off topic. In chat, my fault. Oh, talking about the hunting. Many of them don't keep the meat. They just want to be able to say, I killed it.
Yeah.
And that's a mentality that I hate. Trophy killing is not like people who go out and kill big game like lions and stuff like that. I don't mind hunting if you're hunting and you're going to use the meat and you're going to eat it. Because I like venison. Like, I like deer. I've had quail. That's some good eating. But if you are going out just to kill something because, I am man, I killed it. I think, no, stop it. That is a power problem. And you know what? That kind of goes into mental health. You have some mental issues if that's why you want to go out and just kill things,
And
speaking of which,
we'll segue now.
We will segue
into the problem with background checks.
Yes. Mental issues you cannot find on background checks because of HIPAA laws.
Right.
So if
you're constitutionally protected from divulging any kind of mental health issue.
So that's why when you hear about a lot of these mass shooters, and then you're like, and then you find out, oh, they've been in and out of an institution. Why didn't that come up in the background check? Well, because it never would have. No matter how thorough a background
they have to voluntarily disclose that on the questionnaire form.
Yes.
And if they want a gun to kill a bunch of people, they're never going to say anything.
Right. So, and I don't think there's any law compelling a mental health check for guns, which I think is actually something that quite a few people have requested. But I don't think it's gotten a lot of traction. Do you know anything about that?
Well, you got a problem with that in that you have a physician-patient privilege.
Right.
Where unless the physician thinks someone is in immediate danger, they can't just divulge the issue.
Right.
And it's not the physician that holds the privilege, it's the patient.
Right. Just like psychiatrist.
It's like attorney-client.
Right.
Attorney-client privilege.
Like I can go to my psychiatrist and be like, I want to kill my husband. In fact, I was talking about punching him in the face yesterday with my psychiatrist. I love you. But, she knew that I was joking because, he frustrates me. But that's not something that I should joke about. And I do apologize now for trying to make that joke because abuse is not funny. But their job is to interpret when you are serious and when you're not. So when you make those comments of, sometimes I just want to punch him in the face because he's being a man, versus I really want to kill this mother effer. Like there's a difference in really wanting to murder someone and just being frustrated with someone. And even that, it's still really like, I think that's a lot to put on that's a lot to put on a doctor.
And here's another thing about that. If you compel a doctor to put it in some kind of database, and this is public knowledge that this database exists because it will become public knowledge, is that patient going to be totally honest and forthcoming?
Right.
No, they're not going to.
So then my next question is, how do you deal with it? How do we, like the both of us don't actually have a problem with guns. We just have a problem with how people use the guns.
I don't have a problem with registering them. In fact, I believe every gun that's manufactured in the U.S. should come with a ballistics check already.
That is brilliant.
And
so it's in like a fingerprint. It's in a database.
Yeah. I mean, every kid that's born in the U.S. gets some kind of footprint or handprint on the birth certificate. Why don't they do that with the gun? You can then match up the ballistics in a database and at least see where the gun that you used to kill this person came from here and was sold to this store.
And that's actually not a bad idea. That's a really good idea.
The only problem at this point is you got 285 million guns in the U.S.
It would have to be something from starting now and moving forward, right? Like it would be a slow program to implement, but it would be something to help implement change. It's something to help implement change. Something I thought that was done, just no tracking to it. A ballistics. I think it's just a generic kind of, well, this is the kind of stuff this type of gun can do, but each gun still has a very distinct thing, does it not?
Each gun, the way it's manufactured, and the rifling involved generally has a unique ballistics signature.
So it is very much like a fingerprint.
Right.
You will have similar ones.
If you take 100 million guns and you do that and you find out that you really don't have that much differentiation in a ballistics, then they're going to throw that kind of evidence out of any kind of trial.
Right.
Because now your ballistics evidence is no longer reliable.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
So someone who knows a lot more about guns would have to tell me whether or not that's even a realistic thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. It is okay. So don't they have a serial number, but they get scratched off a lot.
Yeah, you can grind off serial numbers. They're usually in 2 to 3 places in each firearm. Not that difficult to find out where they are.
So the laws that I didn't realize how few laws we actually had until I was looking at it. I mean, I do think that being able to take a gun home that day is a little bit of a problem. That's
you can't do a proper background check.
You can't do a proper background check in
less than a day.
Yeah, like yikes. Man, that's some heavy stuff. So when it comes to like the mental health thing, I'm all about you have to take a safety course before you can take a gun home as well. And it has to be like a legitimate safety course where you learn about guns and like you.
I don't think that's an unreasonable restriction. You have to take driver's training before you can get a driver's license.
Not in every state. Not in every state. Not every state requires you to take a driver's class. I didn't to get my license. I didn't have to.
That explains I-285 to me.
Okay, all right. Atlanta is a bunch of transplants. It's all y'all coming in out of state, driving like you do in your other states. In Atlanta, okay, that is not Atlanta people driving. That is people like you driving. All right. Let's put the kibosh on that one. I will defend my people. What do people consider? All right, Laura asked, what do people consider the purpose of a gun? Well, self-defense is usually the biggest argument. As a person who grew up in the South and grew up in a my dad didn't really hunt until I was older in life, but I had family who hunted. So, and I've been hunting and stuff. So a lot of our meat came from that, and it was it's a lot cheaper than going and buying meat at the store.
I will say this. There's a lot of people that want one for self-defense because they do not believe that they are properly defended by their police force.
As a woman and as a sexual assault survivor, that's actually why I want to get more confident with guns, specifically handguns, because I've been in positions multiple times in my life where I
you can call
needed to get out of situations.
911 for your defense. And in a place that's affluent, you'll get a pretty quick response. Now, the reason for that is varied, but generally it's affluent cities have sufficient police to cover their needs. If you then go to a poor neighborhood, which does not have sufficient police, which does not have what it needs, it can take an hour for the police to show up.
Yeah.
By that time, you're dead. And some people just want that gun because they don't want to rely on a police force that doesn't want to come into their neighborhood to protect the citizens there.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the gun rights activists a lot of the people who are against more gun control do tend to lean more conservative, and they do tend to lean more in the white supremacy. The NRA is a huge reason why gun law and gun stuff doesn't go through, which is a very heavily white supremacist agency. We're going to call a spade a spade. It's racist. It's a racist group. And the people that are in the NRA are not people of color.
Generally speaking.
For those of you who are not, because we do have a lot of I've noticed that we get a lot of people who are not American listening to our podcast, which is really cool. I love that. Thank you so much. I hope you are enjoying learning about American politics and American laws. The NRA is the National Rifle Association, and they lobby heavily. They spend a lot of their money to lobby against gun control.
They generally use their money for donations to right-wing candidates.
Yes, very, very much so. But it's definitely a problem, and kind of a racist problem, the whole gun thing. Because if you look at the bulk of the people, granted, Colorado wasn't a white guy. It turns out this guy was definitely mentally unstable. There were definitely some mental problems there. And he even had a record, and he was still able to get a gun. So that tells me that the background check was not very thorough. He had assault. I mean, isn't assault a felony? Assault is a felony.
Assault can be a felony.
Maybe it
assault
wasn't.
Can be a misdemeanor. Now,
okay.
Assault with a deadly weapon, felony.
Right.
Basic assault, misdemeanor.
I think it was a misdemeanor, which is why it didn't come up on his record. And see, I think if you have a record of assault, you have a record of harming people, whether it's classified as a misdemeanor or a felony, which is kind of a problem of the background check, correct? That
Yes.
they only look at felonies. They don't look at all of these other
Violent
things.
misdemeanors. And there are such things as violent misdemeanors.
Right. So they don't, again, a problem of the background checks. They're just not thorough enough. Also, my phone keeps going off. I do apologize for that.
I can't hear it.
I do, and it bothers me. Man, this has been fascinating. But the bulk of people in mass shootings are white men.
Yes.
And
Racially motivated white men.
Racially motivated white men. And I mean, now we are getting into I as a person in the entertainment industry, and as a film person, as a podcaster, as a just someone whose job is entertaining and media and all of that stuff, I hate the way the media showcases these issues. Because now, because they make it seem, especially with the dude from Atlanta, they make it seem like, oh, this poor guy, he was having a bad day and, just wanted to go kill some people, right? Whereas the guy from yesterday, they have definitely made sure we know he is Muslim and he is from Serbia or Syria.
Syria.
Absolutely made sure we knew he was Muslim and from Syria. I have a problem with that. The root cause of any person who feels like they have the right to kill a person and take a life is absolutely 100% mental illness. However, you can still have a mental illness and be of sound mind to make the deliberate decision to go kill someone. It's not...
You can be mentally ill and know right from wrong. Absolutely.
And like the way our country handles mental illness is not good. It's not good at all. And like there's a lot that needs to be changed to stop mass shootings. And until we start like piling a bunch of like laws, they're just band-aids. It's just a band-aid that's going to fix the problem. What's really going to fix the problem is dealing with the systemic racism and dealing with the mental illness, because those are the root cause of these problems. Those are the root causes of these mass shootings. The fact that these are people who are not quite right. And when white supremacists all have mental problems, in my opinion. If you think that you're better than somebody, you need help. If you think that you're superior than someone because of the color of your skin, you got problems. You have problems and you need to seek therapy and you need to seek help. That's not okay. And what happened to these victims, I want people to sit with and think about. What happened in Atlanta was racially motivated. And these women lost their lives because a guy claimed that he was addicted to sex and wanted to get rid of the temptation. Sex addiction is not a thing. It is actually hotly debated amongst the psychological medical field. And some say it is some say it is a thing, some say it's not a thing. It is one of the reasons why it's still being debated and why it hasn't technically been classified as an addiction is because the lack of evidence that sexual behavior changes your brain the same way other addictive substances like drugs and alcohol do. So they're still having to do studies on that, but that's not an excuse to kill someone. It's not an excuse to kill someone. The guy from Boulder thought he was being followed, thought his old high school was hacking into his phone, hacking into his stuff, and thought he was being followed. They still don't quite understand why he went to that particular area, but that's not an excuse to go buy a gun and shoot people. You need to seek help. If you have an addiction, if you have a problem like that, you seek a therapist and say, I think I have a sex addiction. I think I have, I think, like if you have a family member who is paranoid like that and you're watching this, because like this guy's brother is talking about all these things he went through, why are you not getting these people help? Why are you not trying to get them help? Why are you not sit with that? Think about that. And with that, we're going to wrap up this podcast because we are at our limit. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to Learning the Law podcast. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. You can find it hosted on Twitch at twitch.tv/PhoenixNymphy. Use the hashtag Learning the Law on TikTok to follow more there. You can find Ron on Twitter at NecroKijo and me on most social media platforms at Phoenix Nymphy. If you have any questions, please tweet, comment, or email at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. This has been a Two Lazy Dogs production.
Bye, everyone.